Well, it's an honor and a pleasure to stand before you this morning. And prior to getting started, I just want to acknowledge and thank a few people who are responsible for my standing in front of you today. So first, I want to thank the entire planning committee and Dr. Don. I'm not sure if he's here. Dr. Guy, thank you so much for the opportunity and the invitation. And to my friend and my sister, Dr. Chloe Poston. Dr. Chloe Poston and I went to college together, and I was reflecting yesterday that I never really saw Chloe because Chloe was always in the lab. And it's such an honor, and it's so awesome to see you come full circle and to see you doing what you love to do in such a powerful and impactful way. I'm really, really proud of you. And to all of my friends and colleagues that are in the room, so happy to share this time and space with you today. I also want to shout out the AV team who really worked through this issue of these slides with me this morning. Give it up for the AV, okay? Thank you, thank you. Again, I want to talk to you this morning on a subject of turn the corner, movement to life-giving work. And it's an honor to stand before you today and to be the culminating voice as you're all preparing to depart and to return to your studies and your research in your various locations. And to fulfill the assignment for this culminating address, I was asked to speak to you about affecting change through your scholarship, about making the connection between your personal interests and the shared interests of your communities, and ways to discern how and where your research will directly impact the communities that you represent. And to get at answering this question, I want to begin with a story. It's the same story that I told at the very beginning of my dissertation defense in answer to my committee's question about why I chose my topic. The story goes, several years ago, I took a flight to go preach a sermon in a small black church in the Midwest. Upon my arrival, I was greeted by the pastor of the church, who assumed the responsibility of picking me up from the airport and taking me to my hotel. About 30 minutes into the ride, I was told by the pastor, "I'm looking forward to getting to know you. When you get to your room, go up and change your clothes because I've made dinner reservations for us tonight." I was immediately struck by the remarks. It was not possible to be more inappropriate to a woman, much less a woman who'd just gotten off of a plane, much less to a woman who was there to achieve a professional responsibility. All kinds of boundaries were transgressed in that moment. But in the time that has elapsed since that car ride, I have moved from not only critiquing his behaviors and intentions, but also to critiquing mine. Why? I've asked myself. Why didn't you turn and tell him to turn the car around and take you back to the airport and pay your way back home? Why didn't you tell him to just pull the car over so you could call an Uber and take a ride back to the airport? Why, Neichelle, were you so nice to this guy? And I realized that in that moment, I did what many women do when we feel uncomfortable. We try to diffuse the situation. We try to make creeps feel like we're not offended. We try not to make a big deal of it because it could be worse, right? Especially in the church where I was born and raised, where we're taught deference to men, especially to male clergy. And this was only one of the stories that I shared that day in my defense, and certainly only one of the many that I had read as I was writing and continued to do my ongoing studies on rape culture in the church. And so it's no wonder that my dissertation, entitled Towards a Womanist Homiletical Theology for Subverting Rape Culture, was a gateway, and maybe even a rabbit hole into the patriarchal, misogynist, and sexist attitudes, myths, and behaviors that comprise the rape culture of the Black church. When I get into peer groups and circles, I'm always fascinated by what people are researching. In fact, I've been really fascinated to flip through the book and to read about some of the research that you all have presented here this weekend. But I'm absolutely fascinated even more so by the stories behind the research, the whys, the personal experiences that drive a brilliant mind to ask nuanced and precise questions about what their particular experiences might mean about the human condition, what they say about past and present realities, and what they might signify for the future. And when I have sat in these conversations, I have noticed that the personal experiences that led to transformative work often toe the line between the personal and the private because of the pain that some of the experiences have caused. The outrage, the way that certain experiences alter our beings from our spiritual core and lead us down paths of inquiry and hopefully generative change. When I think of research being rooted in pain and even in disaster, I think of one of my ethical, academic, and even spiritual muses, Ida B. Wells Barnett, the cavalier maverick for the dignity of Black people in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, who risked her life by simply telling the truth about lynching in the United States. Prompted to take up lynching when 3 people she knew personally became victims, Ida B. Wells began collecting data on 2 questions. How can this be? And what's really going on here? We all know the power and the value of a simple set of seemingly simple questions, such as these, when we want to know the truth of unspeakable matters. Prompted by these questions, Ida B. Wells told the truth about the strange fruit of our ancestors' bodies hanging from trees all over the United States, a truth that often existed in the dark and distant corners of the American imagination. That is, until 2013 and 14, when our generation's movement for Black lives erupted and quickly drew sharp parallels. Even today, if you're to pick up a pamphlet or an editorial or an essay by Ida B. Wells, you would see that much of her content is just the facts, ethnographic reporting, names, dates, places, stories surrounding the deaths of unfortunate victims. But the truth for truth's sake, while it can be freeing, it can also be detrimental. It can break the spirit. And there must be a mission, an intended end, a hope for our research that goes beyond merely telling the truth. In the words of Jacqueline Jones Royster, Ida B. Wells began her mission of truth-telling and fact-finding in order to, quote, counter misconceptions and encourage the application of justice. Truth-telling is necessary, my friends. In fact, Ida B. Wells said it herself, the way to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon them. And we must certainly do descriptive work that tells hard truths and paints hard pictures of ineffable matters. But our work must accomplish another mission. A few years ago, as Dr. Spence stated, I was a student about half an hour away from here at Yale Divinity School, and my advisor was Dr. Emily Towns, a progenitor in Womanist theology. Dr. Towns taught me very on that womanist work is distinct from any other, not only because it is theology done from the lived experiences of Black women, but because it has a comprehensive goal to reveal and to redeem. Dr. Towns writes, womanist analysis is not only descriptive, but prescriptive as well. Womanist religious reflections provide descriptive foundations that lead to analytical constructs for the eradication of oppression in the lives of African Americans and, by extension, the rest of humanity and creation. In other words, we need research that turns the corner of despair and begins to tell the truth of joy and resistance and resilience and overcoming. We need research that moves and bends and flexes. We need work that suggests that while there might be an underside to every fact and every truth, that there's also an upside. And together, these tell our past and present stories in greater fullness. In addition to fleshing out our narratives as we now know them, I believe that there is also a future that remains to be seen. You can call it my faith, my optimism, or even my naivete, but I'm hopeful for the future. And I know that it is ours for the shaping, for the creating, and for the curating. However, to get to that future, our work must turn the corner. To help me explain, I want to evoke an image of a body in motion, dancing. In my mind, I see Black women's bodies dancing. I see Judith Jamison dancing Cry, Alvin Ailey's choreographed dance to Black women everywhere. I see Beyonce broadcasting the brilliance and the excellence of HBCU culture at Beachella. Yes. And I see Sierra dancing the gospel of level up, level up, level up. If you were to watch these performances, you will see these women dancing hard, dancing for their lives. They're sweating, they're breathing deeply, they're skilled. One is solo, but two are in company. Liberated bodies signifying liberation. Yes, these women and their performances are power, skill, and beauty, but they're also spirit. You know it when you watch it. It conjures a feeling. It motivates. It inspires. It's a feeling that's as real as anything else, even though it might be intangible. I believe these images and the spirit that they conjure can help us to think about our approaches to our work in a few ways. To turn the corner in our work and to conjure the spirit of dance, we must discover the topics, the thinkers, the issues, and the possibilities that make our own spirits dance, the things that give us life, the things that lead us down avenues of inquiry and possibility. I remember having struggled through the first 3 chapters of my dissertation and having laid out a grueling argument that indeed a misogynistic, anti-black woman rape culture does indeed exist in the black church, even though black women built the institution and keep it afloat every day. And I finally got to the part where I could begin to write about the possibilities and to write my prescriptives for how black women could address and subvert the culture in our bodies and in our preaching. And in my research, I began to uncover histories of black women who had been doing this work in this country as early as the 17th and the 18th centuries, right here in the United States. And I realized that even though I wanted to see black women now showing up differently in our churches and communities, black women had already been doing it. Looking deeply at the history behind my deepest question and even my deepest pain was indeed very painful. But it revealed to me that my visions, my prescriptives, my calling, and my very life are parts of a larger narrative. I come in a long line of black women who, in faithfulness to our call and to the God who called us, have denounced patriarchy as a theological and ecclesiastical norm. Being rooted in a tradition of theory, a tradition of praxis, helps to guide us and to keep us grounded as we turn corners, because at every turn that we attempt to make in our work, in other words, it helps us to know that you're not the first and that you won't be the last. Because as long as evil exists, there will also be a remnant that is called to resistance. Second, to turn the corner, we've got to fight to protect our imaginations. It's easy to go down the rabbit hole of despair that descriptive work can lead us to. It's easy to find the narratives of evil from generation to generation. And sometimes we have to fight the urge to add our voices to the chorus of fake voices and fake news and doomsday prophets. We have to stay moving. We have to stay dancing into the amazing possibilities of our future. In my field, we would call it the already not yet. We have to get to the hope, family. But we can't do that if we cannot see the hope or feel it within ourselves. Our own imaginations are critical to our work. Our ability to envision and to dream and to manifest. Call it your spirit, call it your energy, your aura, your vibration, or even your vibranium. Whatever you call it, fight for it, protect it, nurture it, love it hard enough to feed it regularly. Sometimes it means that you've got to step away from the lab, step away from the research, step away from anything or anyone that zaps you of your peace and zaps you of your joy. Sometimes it means that you've got to put down your social media. But the best way that I have found to protect my vibranium is to purposely and intentionally stay surrounded by life-giving people and life-affirming practices. Like these. You gotta make time for space and for love, for friendship and for laughter, You got to get close to a body of water or eat a soul-satisfying meal, like that pizza I was eating in Naples when I took myself on a solo trip to Italy. Yes. Spend time with your best friends, your nieces or your nephews. Do work, do service. Open a window, light up some sage, and clear your space. Pray, meditate, be active, move your body as much as you can. This is on my hike of Table Mountain with my nephew in Cape Town. Try to remain tender and compassionate. These will fuel you to persevere when your work itself becomes draining. Stay full, stay free, and protect what is divinely yours, for it is the source of your dance, your work, your genuine and your sincere offering to the world. Finally, find your own beat to dance to. The problem with me and dancing is that I am severely rhythmically challenged, as you just saw, I'm sure. I was the kid in my youth choir that could not clap and sing and move from side to side at the same time. It's too challenging for me. But after years of trying to get on beat, I finally had to accept that I'm just offbeat. I'm an offbeat individual. I'm an offbeat Black woman. I don't dance in the same rhythm or in the same time as anyone else. I can't clap and slide. I can barely get through that wobble last night. I really cannot coordinate my body to fulfill any serious choreography, but that doesn't mean that I can't dance, okay? In fact, I can dance. I dance all the time. I dance in my own way, in my own rhythm that I hear in my head. And in my mind, you cannot tell me nothing about my dance skills. I dare anybody to come and dance with me up here when that Beyonce comes back on. But to get to that confidence, I had to accept that I'm just offbeat. And that really is just what it is. And still find joy in the movement. And in my work, I have had to accept that I am offbeat. I am unique. I'm doing my own thing. I am my own thing. And while I have models and mentors to thank for my development, my Creator had something different in mind with me, for my voice, for my presence, and I finally have embraced that. So much so that there are some churches that'll never have me back into their pulpits, and there are some people who have unfollowed me on all of the platforms, never to return to my tribe. But that's okay, because I would rather be my offbeat, genuine, authentic self, doing what I do in the unique ways that I do them. This feels better, and it's also working out for me quite well. Also, more importantly, I realize that to be offbeat is to perpetually say yes. To say yes to the unique, divine, and particular thing that one must do. It's okay to be offbeat, as long as the beat that you're on is your beat. Some might call this purpose. Some might call it the reason that you were born. Some in my field might call it a call. The great theologian Howard Thurman, who is my predecessor in Sisters Chapel at Spelman, calls it the sound of the genuine. And my forever advisor, Dr. Towns, calls it the work your soul must have. Whatever name you call it, you have to find the beat. You have to find the rhythm. And even if you're offbeat, you've got to find the sound that bids you to dance. You've got to dance hard. You've got to find the dance. Don't replicate anyone else's voice or anyone else's dance. Find your burning questions and make your way to the answers as faithfully as you can. Find the issue, the cause, the topic, the mission that breaks your heart, and research and write your way into wholeness for you and for all of us. And once you have mastered your method, turn it into your craft. Find your own language. Write in your own aesthetic. Create your own paradigms, because who else but you will dance to the sound of your genuine? In conclusion, our lives are conspiracies of miracles. We are all a divine answer to a great need in this broken world. None of us are sitting here as a result of our own brilliance. We're here because someone else was told no, was told not now, was told not you, was told not ever. The work that we do has been beckoned and it has been blessed by our ancestors. And so we have to do it. We have to do it well and wholeheartedly. And let us offer it to our communities, both local and global, in love, humility, service, and most importantly, in boldness, even if it is a little offbeat. Thank you.